The story begins with a man named Straker, who is talking to a carriage delivery man. Straker tells him that he needs his help to bring something very important. He explains that it is a heavy box containing something very old and valuable. Straker instructs the delivery man to deliver the box to his new house, Marston House. In the next scene, the delivery man arrives outside Marston House with his truck. His friend is with him, helping him with the delivery. Together, they unload the heavy box from the truck and carefully carry it inside the house. Slowly, they make their way toward the basement because Straker had instructed them to place the box there. While they are carrying the box toward the basement, the friend accidentally bumps into a shelf behind him. The sudden impact throws him off balance, and the heavy box slips from their hands and falls to the floor, breaking one of its sides. Seeing this, the delivery man quickly turns on the light and carefully looks inside the box. But he doesn't see anything inside, only old, dry soil filling the box. For a moment, he feels confused. But then the two of them pick the box up again and place it in a corner of the basement. At that moment, faint whispers suddenly begin echoing through his eyes begin turning white, and suddenly the lid of the box slowly starts opening on its own. But just then, his friend loudly calls out to him, snapping him back to his senses. Trembling with fear, he immediately runs out of the basement and shuts the basement door. Sometime later, we see Ben standing at a distance, looking at Marston House. A police officer approaches him and starts talking to him. During their conversation, it is revealed that Ben used to live in this town before, and now he has returned as a writer to find inspiration for his new book. After a while, the police officer leaves, and Ben heads into town. He arrives at a real estate office where he sees Susan carefully reading his book. Susan recognizes him as well. Ben then asks her to show him a house available for rent. Smiling, Susan suggests a nice place for him to stay. Ben politely thanks her and leaves. The scene then shifts to a school where a new student named Mark is showing his friends some magic tricks. Just then, the school bully walks over to them and angrily punches Mark. Mark stumbles a little but quickly regains his balance. Seeing this, the bully tries to attack him again. But this time, Mark throws him to the ground and twists his arm. At that moment, their teacher, Mr. Burke, arrives and separates the two of them. The scene then cuts to Mark's room. His friend Ralph is looking at some strange things there. Ralph asks him if he wasn't scared of that bully. Mark confidently replies that yes, he was scared. But he is even more afraid of not facing his problems. Just then, Ralph's older brother Dany came into the room and said it was getting late and it was time to go home. As they were leaving, Mark gave Ralph a harmonica and smiling told him, "Whenever you feel scared, just blow into this. It'll help you feel a little better." After that, Ralph and Dany started heading home. On the way, Straker suddenly appeared in front of them and offered them a ride. But something about him felt strange to Dany, so he refused the offer. The two brothers then decided to walk through the forest path instead. Ralph was slowly walking while playing the harmonica. Suddenly, Straker came up from behind, grabbed Ralph, and carried him away. Dany had no idea what had happened. When he turned back, Ralph had already disappeared. The scene then changes. Straker dragged Ralph out of his car and started taking him inside the Marston house. As soon as he entered the house, Straker said in a frightened voice, "Master Barlow, your loyal servant Straker is here. I have brought the sacrifice." One by one, the candles in the room began to go out, and the atmosphere turned dark and terrifying. Through a small tear in the sack he was trapped in, Ralph saw a horrifying monster-like face moving toward him. The very next moment, Barlow mercilessly killed Ralph right in front of Straker. A week later, Ralph's mother was still searching for her missing son. Meanwhile, Burke introduced himself and invited to come to the school. Later that night, Dany was in his room looking at Ralph's harmonica case. Suddenly he heard faint sounds coming from far away. When he listened carefully, he realized that someone was playing a harmonica. Terrified, Dany looked out the window, but he couldn't see anyone. Then he thought that maybe Ralph had come back, so he went outside to check. Even after looking around, he couldn't find anyone. Then he noticed Ralph's harmonica lying on the ground. As soon as he tried to pick it up, the swing behind him started moving on its own. Despite being scared, Dany slowly walked toward the swing. The very next moment, something suddenly pulled him upward. After some time, we see Dany in his mother's room, telling her that he feels very sick. His mother immediately rushed him to the hospital. After treatment, Dany was placed in the ICU. When he regained consciousness, he asked his mother for some water. When his mother stepped outside to get it, Dany suddenly tore open a packet of blood. As soon as his mother returned, she saw Dany drinking the blood. The very next moment, Dany collapsed unconscious and died. The next day, the priest and the gravedigger Mike were preparing for Dany's funeral. The priest offered Mike some alcohol for working so hard, and Mike happily accepted. Later, while the priest was performing Dany's funeral rites, Mike was having breakfast under a tree and eventually fell asleep there while eating. When Mike woke up, he realized that night had already fallen. He then went to Dany's grave and started filling it with soil. Suddenly, he heard a knocking sound coming from inside the coffin. Terrified, Mike rushed to open the coffin, thinking Dany might still be alive. But when he opened it, he saw Dany lying there peacefully. Confused, Mike closed the coffin again and continued filling the grave with dirt. But suddenly, Dany burst out of the grave and attacked Mike the very next moment. Later, we see Burke in a bar, where he notices Mike sitting alone in a corner. Concerned, Burke goes over to him and asks if everything is okay. Mike tells him that he's feeling sick, especially since it's already nighttime. Feeling sympathetic, Burke offers to let Mike stay at his house for the night, and Mike accepts. At Burke's house, he helps Mike lie down on the bed. At that moment, Burke notices bite marks on Mike's neck. He asks how he got those marks, but Mike says he doesn't remember. Burke doesn't question him further and goes to close the window in the room. As he looks toward the window, he briefly notices a faint supernatural glow in Mike's eyes. But when he looks again, the glow has disappeared. Burke feels a little suspicious but ignores it and leaves the room. Sometime later, when Burke is in his living room, he hears knocking sounds coming from upstairs. He also hears a faint whispering voice. Hearing this, Burke immediately steps outside and looks toward the upstairs window, where he sees someone climbing inside through it. Frightened, Burke runs to Ben for help, as Ben is renting the house next door. Susan is also there. Burke tells them the whole incident and asks if they have a cross, because he suspects that these events might be connected to a vampire. After that, Burke, Ben, and Susan go to Burke's house and head straight to Mike's room. When they arrive, they see that Mike is already dead. Meanwhile, Mark is peacefully sleeping in his bed in his room. Suddenly, he hears knocking sounds. When he looks toward the window, his eyes widen in terror. Outside, Dany is floating in the air. Seeing this, Mark panicked and quickly got up and closed the curtains on the window. But just a few moments later, Dany appeared near another window and stared at him as if asking to be let inside. Suddenly, Mark fell under the spell of his hypnotic gaze and, in a dazed state, opened the window. Dany floated into the room and in a low voice said that Master Barlow wanted to meet him. Then Dany slowly started moving closer to Mark. The light snapped Mark back to his senses, and he quickly grabbed the cross and held it in front of Dany. The intense glow made Dany scream as he backed away and fell out the window. Mark immediately shut the window and sat trembling on his bed. Sometime later, Mark began researching vampires and concluded that if he wanted to end all of this, he would first have to kill Master Barlow. The scene then shifts to Burke's house the next day. Burke was thinking about the events of the previous night when he suddenly heard strange noises coming from inside the house. He got up to investigate and was shocked by what he saw. Mike was standing right in front of him. Frightened, Burke quickly grabbed a cross and held it up toward Mike. The bright light made Mike scream as he flew out of the room and disappeared into the darkness. After that, Burke started checking around the house with the cross still in his hand. But suddenly, Mike lunged at him from behind. The force of the attack sent Burke tumbling down the stairs, and the cross slipped from his hand and slid under a table. Mike slowly began moving toward him. But Burke gathered his courage, bent down quickly, grabbed the cross, and held it in front of Mike again. As soon as the cross glowed, an invisible force pushed Mike back violently, and he flew out of the house and vanished into the darkness. The next morning at the hospital, a nurse informed Dr. Cody that Dany's mother had been found dead in her home, and her body had now been placed in the cemetery. Hearing this, Dr. Cody started reviewing the files of all the people who had recently died, because the chain of deaths was beginning to seem unusual to her. After that, Dr. Cody asked the nurse if Mike's body was still in the cemetery. But when she reached the morgue, she was shocked to discover that Mike's corpse had mysteriously disappeared. Dr. Cody then went to the house of her old friend Burke. There she saw Burke lying injured on the floor. She woke him up and told him about Dany's mother's death and Mike's disappearance. Panicking, Burke called Ben and Susan to his house and explained his theory to them. He said that maybe Ralph had become a sacrifice so that Barlow, who is a vampire, could regain his powers. And now, all the people who had died had come back to life and turned into vampires. However, Dr. Cody thought all of this sounded ridiculous and refused to believe Burke's claims. Burke then told her about Mike, saying that Mike had attacked him the previous night. Even then, Cody wasn't convinced. She suggested that they go to the morgue where Dany's mother's body was kept and stay there until nightfall so they could find out what was true and what wasn't. Burke said that the three of them should go because he himself still needed to do more research on the matter. Meanwhile, Mark went to the Marston House. He opened the basement door and went inside. As he looked around, Burke suddenly came up from behind and warned him to leave immediately because he had no idea what he was dealing with. Mark said that he knew there was a vampire in this place. Just then, someone locked the basement door from the outside. As darkness fell, Burke lit a nearby candle and noticed that a door leading inside the house was open. At that moment, Barlow's hand came out from a cane. Burke helped Mark reach the door, but suddenly the candle went out. When Mark turned on the basement light, Barlow attacked Burke from behind, and at the same time, Straker grabbed Mark and dragged him into the house. Then we see Ben, Susan, and Cody waiting beside Dany's mother's body in the morgue. Susan nervously asks what they will do if she suddenly gets up and how they will protect themselves. Just then, Dany's mother's slipper fell to the floor, and her hands began to move toward them. To activate the cross, Susan asked Ben to recite a prayer. Ben began praying and the cross started to glow. Seeing this, Ben held the cross in front of the body, which made Dany's mother scream loudly. But in the very next moment, the cross broke, and the corpse moved straight toward Cody. The corpse tried to bite Cody and said that no one would survive now. As soon as Cody was attacked, Susan quickly placed the cross near Dany's mother's back. With the power of the cross, the corpse screamed and vanished into thin air. After that, Cody tested him with the cross to see if he had turned into a vampire or not. When the cross had no effect, everyone assumed that Cody hadn't turned into a vampire. Then Ben suggested that they should tell Father Callahan everything that had happened. On the other side, in Marston House, Mark was hanging upside down in a room. Somehow, he managed to free himself. When Straker entered the room, Mark attacked him from behind and killed him. The scene then shifts to the church. There, Ben, Susan, and Cody tell Father Callahan everything that had happened. Suddenly, Mark arrives and says that Burke has now become a vampire. Then he fills a bottle with holy water and explains that he has also killed Barlow's servant, Straker. Father Callahan asks Mark if he can show them the place where Straker was killed. After that, they all head to Marston House. Just as they were about to enter the house, the basement door inside suddenly opened on its own. Seeing this, they carefully went inside and started looking around. Suddenly, strange noises began echoing through the house. Hearing this, Ben took a wooden stake from Mark's bag that could help kill a vampire. As soon as he turned on the flashlight, Burke suddenly appeared in front of him. He attacked, leading to Ben's death. With this, the story ends here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Also, subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.